Cheers. Okay, so today we're talking about busking, but before I get into the topic, I just want to show you guys this chair that I am currently seated in. I thrifted it for like $15 maybe a year or two ago. Other than the fact that it looks like it was attacked by a small animal, possibly a raccoon on one side, it's in pretty good shape. And definitely one of my better finds. Makes me feel like I'm living out my childhood dreams of going to Hogwarts and reading about how to make some weird potion at like 1 a.m. in the library. So I feel like this is the kind of chair I'd be sitting in if I was doing that. Anyways, the topic today is busking. So first of all, what is busking? The official definition is the act of playing music in the street or another public place for voluntary donations. So in non-dictionary terms, you know, when you're out walking, maybe you see some like scruffy looking person on the corner with their guitar case open. Every like 20th person is throwing them a penny and you're like, wow, that's a sad life. That is busking. Basically, I'm just gonna talk about my own experience busking and kind of why I got into it and why I think you should too if you're a musician or you just like playing music, even if it's not like your main thing. When I was in 8th grade, I'd been playing guitar for a couple years already. I don't think I'd really like sung in front of people yet, but I was starting to sing more. And I saw this video on YouTube of this girl who was like my age, maybe younger, like maybe even a year or two younger than me, Ali Sherlock. She's like very famous now. You should check out her channel though, it's cool. She just posts on her channel pretty much only videos of her busking. She's from Ireland. That's actually where the term busking originated. So I saw this video of her. I was kind of inspired by that and I wanted to try it myself, but I was pretty nervous and I couldn't really find any videos on YouTube talking about like the actual experience of busking. It was more just like videos of people busking. So I didn't actually end up going until about 2 years later. It was like the beginning of my sophomore year and I was very nervous, but I actually convinced a friend to go with me. I would definitely recommend, if you're nervous about going, find a friend to come with you. The friend that I went with, he also played guitar and sang, so like we kind of did it together, which was nice. But even if it's a friend who doesn't do music but can just come and like stand next to you, watch, that sort of thing, definitely helps to feel more comfortable. Like, don't feel bad about doing that. You don't have to like go by yourself the first time or even every time. Yeah, so the first time I went, I actually went with 2 friends. We all sing and play guitar. We only brought 1 guitar, which was probably a good move. We definitely sounded pretty bad, and I think we made like $3. I wouldn't really call it a success necessarily, but it was so fun that like I kind of didn't care that we sounded bad and we didn't really make much money. So after that first time, I started going much more often, either with those 2 friends or even by myself. And I learned a lot of things along the way. And I'm by no means an expert in busking at all. Like, some people, it's literally their full-time job. This was just something I was kind of doing on the weekends for fun. But I've still learned a lot from that I figured I would share. I don't have a tripod, so you're propped up on a lot of books and I'm kind of hunching over to stay in frame. So I'm sorry about that. So the reason that I think busking is a great thing, I mean, it's fun, you can make money, which is great, but overall, if you are a musician, it's great practice. Normally, if you're gonna go play live somewhere and you're not well known, you either have to pay or you can only play like 2 or 3 songs. Like if you're at an open mic and you maybe have to listen to other people who are like really terrible. Like one time I went to this open mic that made me decide I would not be going to any more open mics anytime soon, where these 2 women impersonated cats in the White House. Like, they became the cats. It was very bizarre. This other guy, this little guy, he started singing a cappella country music.
Still learn to say certain man, gotta shake a hand.
Not that I was much better than them, but still, it was not something that I would ever want any of you to have to sit through, and you really never know what you're gonna get when you go to those. So if you don't want to have to go through that experience, busking is great because you don't have to watch anybody else. You can play as many songs as you want. Also, it's low pressure. I know it feels like really scary in the beginning. Oh, I'm just out on the street. What are people gonna think? But the truth is, most people aren't gonna stop, which might be sad on the one hand, but at the same time, If you mess up, who cares? People aren't paying to listen to you. They can just walk by if they don't like it, which is definitely nice. Like one time, my friend and I, we were singing Young Blood by 5 Seconds of Summer, and right at the high part, his voice cracked so bad, and this one lady was walking by, and it was like, yeah, it was very embarrassing, but it was way less embarrassing than if we had been playing at an open mic and it was just like a silent room of all these people listening. That's definitely a pro. You get a lot of great practice. Nobody has to be listening to you. You can play whatever you want pretty much. It gets you more comfortable in front of other people too, even if, you know, there aren't lots of people stopping to listen. Still, just having people walking by gets you feeling more comfortable. It teaches you when you make a mistake, just like keep going, play through it. So I feel like it's very valuable for anyone at really any stage of either like singing or playing an instrument or whatever. You also don't have to sing. I see people out often playing an instrument. If you haven't been before, I would definitely recommend scoping out the areas that you're thinking of going to. Say that you're planning on going on a Friday or a Saturday, which I would actually recommend because those 2 nights, it's the end of the week, people are usually out, it's more crowded. Maybe if you go into a sort of downtown area, they're out, you know, getting food. Obviously this is like pre-COVID. I actually have sadly not been at all since COVID started, but I do intend to return to it once things get safe again. But I would highly recommend Friday and Saturday nights. People, you know, they're out, they're feeling good, maybe they've like had a couple drinks, you know, they're getting food, they tend to have cash on them. So if you're gonna do one of those 2 nights, I would recommend thinking about where's an area nearby me, like a downtown sort of place. What night am I gonna go? If I'm like gonna go next Friday night, go there on a different Friday and just walk around and just get the lay of the land, see what's going on, where are there different clusters of people, who's around, does it feel safe? That's a very important thing to consider because it's true that if you're standing out there and people are throwing you money, I've definitely had situations, nothing crazy, but like where I can tell people are like eyeing, you know, they'll be like standing around and I don't know, getting robbed would suck. So try and find a place that feels generally on the safer side. Also keep an eye out, are there other people busking? Some places you need a license. Look up the website for like whatever county you live in. Usually there you can find guidelines for like street performing and noise. It will usually be under like something related to noise. I think in my county you don't need a license to perform on the street unless you have a microphone with like an amp setup. And in that case you do. I don't know that people necessarily follow that rule, and I don't know that it's very enforced. In some places I think it's more enforced than others. But that's something to look into. Anyways, if there are people already busking in the area and you think that maybe they have gotten a license, you can even ask them. I would recommend trying to be friendly with the people that are out busking in an area that you're thinking about going to. You can ask them like, do you have a license? That way, because it's often if people, they pay for a license, then they actually own that spot for however long the license is. So you definitely don't want to go show up in their spot. If they're just there, that's just where they normally go. There's nothing wrong with going to the spot, but at the same time, you don't want to create tension. You could even ask like, what days do they normally go? There's this one guy who often busks in the spot that I go to. I think he and I were both going to that spot, but because neither of us were consistent, we just hadn't run into each other before. But then I tried to kind of befriend him and be nice, and we made a group chat to figure out what days either of us were going so that we wouldn't both show up at the same time. Because, you know, sometimes that's kind of irritating. You show up and then somebody's in your spot. So definitely that's something to be cognizant of. So once you kind of get the lay of the land, you look around, you figure out what's going on. Are there other people in the area? Do you need a license? What kind of equipment are you planning on using? You definitely don't need a microphone, especially if that's the difference between you having to pay for a license and not. I don't use a microphone. I mean, it's helpful because people can hear you more, but it is not a necessity. That was something that was holding me back for a while, as I was feeling like, oh, I need an amp and I need a microphone. And honestly, you do not at all. Especially in the beginning, I think more stressful if you're worried like you're gonna mess up and that sort of thing, and people can actually hear you. If people really want to hear you, they'll stop and listen. One thing that I would recommend, you wanna find an area when you're doing your sort of scoping out that gets a lot of traffic flow, but also isn't too close to where people are sitting, because you don't want to force people to listen to you. Say that a place has outdoor dining, you don't want to go right where people are sitting. I actually have found, and I don't know if this is true other places, I've made the most money and had the most people kind of like stop and listen, interestingly, I go in front of a movie theater. And I think going to movie theaters, everybody has to walk in through the one entrance. People tend to have cash on them, you know, if they're gonna buy some snacks and that sort of thing. that has been the spot that's been the best for me. And also, it's not the same people over and over. It's, you know, new people coming in and out, unless you're there for a long time and you catch somebody who's like gone in and then 3 hours later come out from the same movie. So if there's a theater around you, you could definitely try that. Although, again, with COVID, I don't know if people are even going to theaters. Hopefully not. Once things are more normal again, that could be something you try. It works really well for me. I would highly recommend having a sign with your social media written on it. I didn't actually have social media for quite a while. I had Instagram briefly in 8th grade, really didn't like it, and so I deleted it. And then I didn't get it again until the beginning of my junior year of high school, a little over a year ago. I pretty much got it because enough people had asked me while I was out busking if I had an Instagram like for music. So finally I got it, and I did get a few followers that way, very little, pretty much as soon as I got it, COVID hit. So enough people asked me that I do feel it's important, and even if somebody isn't gonna ask you, if they see it, sometimes, you know, people just snap a picture and look you up later. So if you have an Instagram, if you have a Spotify or a YouTube or that sort of thing, all three of them, you can just draw like the little symbol and then write out your username on a piece of cardstock. That's very helpful. And you can just stick it in your case. Even Venmo, that's something people have asked me about too. So back to this thing about bringing friends with you. Not only is it good for if you're nervous, but if you have more than one person, harmonies. If you're by yourself, don't worry about this, but if you're going with a crew, people love that. Seriously, you can be singing a boring song and then you hit them with the harmony and they're walking by and they hear it, people will stop. I've totally had people fully walk by and not even look at me, and me and my friend hit a harmony and they stop and they literally turn around like, oh my god, did you hear that? And they give us money. I don't know, for whatever reason, people get super impressed by that. So definitely use that to your advantage. Another thing that I've learned is, as a general rule, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but as a general rule, try to play songs that are well known. And this is difficult for me because I don't really love pop music that much. A lot of the songs that I like to play are not very well known. And if you have a song that you really love and you think like you sound really good playing, I mean, go for it. But if you can have a little more than half of the songs in your set be popular songs, especially old people songs, 80s and before, because adults, it will like remind them of their youth or whatever. Fleetwood Mac songs, they get into that. Older songs that were very well known though, and just even modern pop songs, even if that feels like you're selling yourself a little bit, people, if they're less likely to stop and listen than if they recognize the song quickly. And when I first started, I was pretty nervous because I don't have that many songs memorized. Maybe I had like 3 or 4 songs memorized. That takes what, 15 minutes? I'm not just gonna go out for 15 minutes. I wanna be out for a solid 2-3 hours. If you choose a spot that is just people walking by, not the same people over and over, just recycle the songs. Choose 5 songs and just sing them over and like cycle through them basically, and no one's gonna notice. I mean, occasionally you'll get somebody who noticed. Like one time I was playing I think it was like Bellyache, because that one has good harmonies. I was with my friend. These 2 girls walked by, spaced out about like 20 minutes, 4 times, and every single time they walked by, we were on Bellyache in the cycle of songs. They definitely noticed. They're kind of like cackling because I think they thought we were just playing the same song over and over again. But even if that doesn't happen, so what? Like, they don't have to pay you. They don't have to stop and listen. Like, who cares? So generally, if you're in a place where there's lots of traffic, just keep recycling those same songs and no one's gonna know. You can have lyrics or chords and that sort of thing, and I definitely have found that to be helpful, but I've noticed it's more helpful if you have a music stand or something and you put it on. I'll take screenshots beforehand of the chords and the words, and so that way you can kind of like go through a full verse and chorus maybe, and all you have to do is just quickly swipe and you don't have to stop the song. Say I'm playing guitar and my friend is singing, or vice versa, and one of us is looking at the phone scrolling through the words the whole time. I don't know, it's like less impressive, or it just seems like you're not putting in as much effort, if that makes sense. So if you can put the phone or even print out the words or something and have it propped up somewhere in front of you so that you can mostly be looking up at people who are walking by and engaging and that sort of thing, and then just you can glance down when you need to, or just quickly do a little swipe. That's worked well for me. I already mentioned this, but not everyone's gonna stop and listen. Not everyone's gonna give you money, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. You're out there, you're having fun, that's what matters. But all of the things that I've kind of said so far, going on Friday and Saturday nights, stationing yourself in a strategic area, all that kind of stuff really helps. So as you probably saw on the thumbnail of this video, the most that I did make in a night was $231.17, which was pretty good because I was only out for like maybe 2 or 3 hours, so it's very solid. I will get into a little more detail about how much I make on average and what you can do to maximize your earnings. The more you busk, the more comfortable you're gonna get, and the more you're gonna get to know kind of what area you're in. When I started, actually, I was going to a different downtown, a couple towns away from me, that I thought I would make more money in because there just tends to be more wealthy people there. But they were all kind of like tech snobs, and probably the most I ever made, $25, I think. And then I switched to a different downtown. I mentioned earlier, in front of a movie theater, way more money there. I would say on average, on like a Friday night, I would make between $80 and $150, and I would say about 2 hours usually I'm out. But that night where it was my friend and I made $230 was December 14th of 2019, I think. So, I don't know. What had happened was, there was a guy who was also busking. When we got to the theater, he was already in the spot that we would usually go in, which was kind of frustrating, but at the same time, like, we don't own the spot, nothing we can do about it. So we were almost gonna go home, and then we decided to see if there was any other good spots that wouldn't be disturbing him, because you don't want to go close to somebody else who's busking. It's just irritating to them and rude. There's a parking garage underneath the movie theater. We were trying to figure out, like, where's the traffic coming from? And we're like, oh, a lot of people are coming out of the parking garage. How can we utilize that to our advantage? So basically, we went into the stairwell, and it's like an enclosed stairwell that leads, if the garage is under here, you take some stairs up, and then you come out the little door here, and then the theater is like right here, so you just go into the door there. So we stood at the top of the stairwell, and the door was closed and everything. The people outside couldn't hear us, and we weren't disturbing the guy who was in our spot, and he couldn't really see us or anything. It actually had really good acoustics. You could hear us, and that was great because we were trying to do harmonies and that sort of thing. That instantly just like upped our average earnings a lot. We did that a couple weeks in a row in that stairwell. We were making significantly more in the stairwell. Also, the nice thing about that is we could hear when the door was opening, when someone was coming out of the garage to come up. We didn't even have to be playing until we heard the door open, and then we just start really fast. They open the stair and there's just music coming down. The acoustics in there were great. And the night that we did make $231, some movie had come out. It was either like a Star Wars or an Avengers, where a lot of people were going to it. And it was like the holidays. People tend to just be way more generous at the holidays. That kind of combination of the stairwell, where like a lot of people are coming out and we could be heard really well. A lot of people were going to whatever that movie was. I think it was Star Wars, and it was like the holidays. That combination, I think it was under 2 hours that we were in there. It was a lot of money. So that was a great night. If you are gonna try the movie theater thing, definitely check and see like what movies are coming out that you know that a lot of people are gonna be going to, like big ones. And use that to your advantage. Use the geography of the area to your advantage. If there is a parking lot or a stairwell or something like that where there's a lot of traffic coming through, but people aren't going to be stuck in there listening to you for a long time. If somebody comes out of the stairwell and they hate what we're singing, they only have to hear us for like 15 or 20 seconds until they're out the door. You know, it's no big deal. So if you can find a good place like that, that will definitely get you a lot of money. Also, a little bit devious, but all those people who are coming out, they were hearing us first before they heard that other guy. So generally, if people are walking and they see, two people who like separately busking, they might be less likely to give to either of them, just because there's more competition. Maybe the other person's better than you. I don't know. We were the first person they saw. That was definitely helpful. Last thing, I mean, I've given most of my advice, but be prepared to meet unusual people. When you're out doing something unusual, especially, which I guess busking's a little unusual, people will have opinions about like what you're doing and how you could be better and all this. Like literally the amount of time that like specifically like old men, but not super old, like in their 60s, come up to me giving us all this advice when they clearly don't even play music at all. Kind of irritating, but you just kind of got to go with it. You don't want to create any fights or anything. Also met a surprising amount of evangelical Christians out trying to convert people, which you wouldn't really think, like in the Bay Area, there are a lot of them, but they're here. They really are. There's just a lot of interesting people that you will meet from it, and overall, I would say it's a net positive. I haven't had any like really negative or scary experiences. It is important, as I said in the beginning, find a place that you feel is a safe area. But yeah, you're gonna meet weird people. You might also run into people you know. I was very nervous about that, running into people from school and that sort of thing, and it does happen often. But I've never had a bad experience with that. Usually people are just surprised and then they're really nice. Overall, I feel like it's made me a much more confident performer, although I am still very anxious about performing, that sort of thing. It's just taught me to not care too much about, like, not get in my head about what are other people thinking. It's great practice. It's a fun way to spend your Friday or Saturday night by yourself or with a friend. You can make money from it, which is great. You know, if you are really consistent and you have out your social media and everything, it can help you gain more followers, more people listening to your music. So overall, I would definitely recommend that once it is safe again, you try busking if that's something you're interested in. Look into it a little more, maybe watch some videos of other people. It's really fun, and I'm really excited to get back into it when I can. So thanks so much for watching. I know this is kind of a different video than the kinds that I've done before, but I think I'm kind of moving maybe more into the direction of sharing, I don't know, just different things that I've learned. As I've just gotten more into music, I guess, like, I still have there's endless stuff to learn. I don't really know what I'm doing that much, but at the same time, I have, like, learned a lot of stuff along the way, and I'm, excited to share that. If anybody has any questions regarding this or something else, drop a comment, let me know. I do read through all the comments because I don't have a lot of people leaving them yet, so that's all right, though. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I will see you guys next week. Toodaloo.